listening to TrawlCast.
What's up, everybody? I'm Seth.
And I'm Seán.
Welcome back to TrawlCast. This week, we are going to be reviewing some songs. We're going to do a rig rundown. We're actually going to be talking about some of the gear that we use on stage. And then we're going to take a listener question.
Yeah, it's going to be a very jam-packed episode. There's kind of a pun in there if you caught it. But this week we are doing a couple tracks that Seth and I have been talking about for a little bit now. And I know we've reached out to the bands to make sure that we're okay to do this. We want them to be able to get the recognition they deserve. These guys are working very hard. They're writing some extremely good music, and if they don't get the recognition they deserve, I'm going to drop kick somebody. That's just a nice way of putting it. So Seth, actually, you were talking about this earlier. You're going to be doing a track review of the song "Dirty" by Twin Grizzly.
So this track, Dirty by Twin Grizzly, came out in January. Twin Grizzly is a hard rock band from Lewiston, Maine. They are described as aggressive, groovy, hypersexual, and loud, which I think is a pretty awesome description of their music.
Hypersexual is very accurate.
So get dirty, baby. You know I like it when you hit the floor. Get dirty, baby. Dip it low, honey. You do it some more.
So the band is Will Cobb on vocals, Len Lendham on guitar, Christopher Layton on drums, Chris Bowden on guitar, and David Dumas on bass. Really good dudes. We've played a couple of shows with these guys over the past year. Yeah. Their energy is unmatched. They just have a killer stage presence, and I love their music. Today I wanted to review their new track, Dirty. Cool thing about this track is that it was self-recorded. They tracked it themselves in their studio space. They got it mixed by Kevin Billingsley at the Halo, which we love Kevin. We work with Kevin as well.
That's a great guy, yeah. I do got to say, though, too, like, this ability now in this day and age of being able to record your own tracks in, like, maybe, like, in this day and age, too, current situation, like, being able to record a bass line and a drum line separately and bringing it together or doing it yourselves is so huge. So hearing what they did with this song and knowing that they recorded it themselves, it shows that the technology and the passion for this stuff is growing exponentially from where it used to be. So,
absolutely. I was really impressed by the production on this track. And the mix is, of course, excellent. Kevin's mixes are so good. So to get into the track, you know right away that it's going to be a hard rock heavy hitter. The intro comes in. It's kind of like a sparse, almost 80s influenced intro, but it quickly kind of shifts gears into kind of a heavier pre-verse section that has like fantastic syncopated rhythm. Chris and David do an awesome job at just like bring this really kind of cool, aggressive rhythm that's changes, I think, the mood of the song a little bit from what you first hear when it first opens. One of the things I noticed right away when the verse kicks in is Will's vocals have this cool double tracked effect with sort of like a sultry, low voice that gets in your ear,
Mm-hmm.
along with a regular vocal track.
That's the hyper sexy or hypersexual, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
She knows how she gonna make me want it. She knows.
Maynard's actually done that on some of the newer stuff that he's done with like Pucifer and the later Tool albums, where he's got like this really low secondary vocal that just kind of adds this textural element that makes it cool.
It's layering the vocals so that the pattern, yeah. I mean, that's super cool, and especially like Will's voice, man, is he's got a great voice. I love listening to all the Twin Grizzly stuff. That it definitely is something that stands out and makes me want to listen more.
Yeah. As the song moves into the chorus, it's got this sort of like, the guitar riffs have this sort of like White Zombie or Rob Zombie energy, where they kind of feel like machine-like with the rhythms, and it's got a lot of like sexually suggestive lyrics and stuff like that. The song's called Dirty, so it's like no surprise that that's what it's going to be, but it's a really cool. It's a really cool song. There's a super rad guitar solo in, you know, kind of the bridge section. And another cool production choice I heard was that in the mix, the guitar solo is like slightly behind the instrumental breakdown on the second part of it, because there's like a halftime groove that comes in, but the halftime groove stays super prominent and heavy. It's not in the background, and the guitar solo in the second half is almost a little bit lower than that, so it kind of keeps the feel and the groove of the song moving. I love it, man. It's just a killer song. It's full of attitude, groove. It's one of those songs that I think people are going to, you know, sing along to, and that, like, in every set list, they're not going to be able to not play that song. Like, people are just going to demand that song.
It's one of the, it's one of those songs that when the people hear it, recorded or live, it's got a hook that sets in you that you cannot shake. So going home, driving home, that's the song you want to listen to. That's you get it. It's an itch that you can't scratch because you need to hear it again. So I completely understand that. It's true. It's a great song. It's a great track. Twin Grizzly, I don't care who you are, they're a damn good band of a just absolute fantastic group of guys, and they write just killer music, man. Absolutely fantastic music.
Yeah, we see them all out at shows a lot, especially Chris Layton, the drummer. He's out at many Trawl shows supporting us. And
he's at every show, man. Him and his wife Shannon are everywhere. Like, they are some of the biggest supporters in the scene for sure. I see them at heavy metal shows, death metal shows, rockabilly shows. You know, they're everywhere, and they come out and they have a good time. And it's super cool to get to know a lot of these people. I actually just found out, well, I've known it for a little bit, but Chris and I actually live in the same town, and he lives like 3 minutes from me, which is crazy. I didn't realize he lived that close. And once this whole situation in life is going away, him and I are going to be doing some kayaking together and cause some trouble. So be on the lookout for that.
That's awesome. So kind of a fun side story. The guitar player, one of the guitar players, Chris Bowden, and I used to be in a band together like almost 18 years ago. We were in a band called Without Cause, with a Z, because you got to have
a Z. You got to have the Z, baby.
And the A in the cause was a anarchy symbol, because you got to have that too. Why not?
Yeah, when you're young and you're full of piss and vinegar, you gotta throw that anarchy A on some stuff. You know, we've all been there.
We even had like the Amp Scrim covers with like the anarchy logos. It was pretty cool. So we were in this band together. It was like my junior year of high school, and We recorded a 2-song demo at Big Sound Studios in Westbrook. Recently, Chris has been threatening to put it up on Spotify so people could hear it.
Chris, please do that. Please do that.
It's definitely like it was probably my first real recording in a studio, but it was like a good early experience. I don't think, at the time, like I had been in the band like 1 week, but it was a super fun first experience, and it was really cool that, later on, much later on, we got to run into each other again with our.
It comes full circle, baby.
Bands. Yeah, absolutely. So,
I'll say that there is a lot of that, like the full circle thing, and we'll get into that later on.
Absolutely. So go check out Twin Grizzly. Check out the new song "Dirty." It's on Spotify. It's on all of the digital outlets and things like that. Rumor has it those guys are working on a new EP, which should be out soonish. So,
and I expect that to be ultra hypersexuality.
Yeah, exactly.
What's up, guys? This is Will with Twin Grizzly, and you're getting nuts with TrawlCast.
All right. So, Seán, I know you wanted to review a track from the band Alions.
Yes. So I chose this song based on, one, it's the first single that came off of the recently released album. Sorry, I'm trying to find my notes here. Actually, I have a page of notes just so everyone's aware. So this CD, actually, here we go. The CD was released on January 11th of 2020. It's by the band Alions. The CD is called Time Will Tell, and I chose the song Chasing After Nothing. Now, with it's a fantastic song, and this whole thing. Let me get into this. So, Alions is John Wagner on the vocals, Alec Bonang on guitar and vocals, Josh Ward playing bass, and Jesse Graham playing drums. Now, if you've been in the main music scene, especially the heavy music scene, you know all these guys. Some way, somehow, one way or another. Especially John Wagner. Now, John Wagner, I will be brutally honest, I have a man crush on. Okay? I think he is one of the nicest, most genuine people you will ever meet. He is literally, if you took cocaine and Red Bull and Bang and you mixed it all together in a blender and you fed it to a chimpanzee and then fed the chimpanzee's meat to a cheetah, that's John Wagner. Like, the guy is literally nonstop energy. He is unbelievably talented. I have had the pleasure of playing with 3 of his bands now. He was in Last Ones Alive. Alter the Tides was another band that he was in. I have been lucky enough to play with both those bands and Alions. So I'm a huge fan, needless to say. But getting to the track, Chasing After Nothing by Alions. This song is, I think, what people need to look forward to in their days. Okay? This song starts out with a very simple hi-hat 4-count, and it kicks kind of right into the song. But what, to me, changes the song up is there's this 1 second that I believe it's 12 or 13 seconds into the song. There's a breath that John takes. And I'll tell you right now, you hear that breath and the scream that immediately follows it. If your heart is not racing with anticipation and excitement, you're probably dead. The way this song starts out is absolutely phenomenal. The energy, the power, just the ferocity of it is unmatched by a lot of standards nowadays.
I love when bands leave the breath in. Those little things that
absolutely
just happen. That
it's character
into the production.
and
it's character, right?
And this whole album, Time Will Tell, is full of character. It is full of everything you want from a band, a metalcore band, that you'd expect. I mean, honestly, just that initial breath and scream really kick the song off. And the best part is this is track number 1 on the CD. So you're starting the CD off with a kick right in the ass to get up and move. So I mean, that's where I'll start. Now, getting into it, I know that this was recorded at the studio with Evan Sammons in Belgrade, Maine. Evan has done a lot of recording. I've been told. I have not worked with him yet, but he has been doing a lot of recording, and I can tell that he is doing a very good job at it. The guitars, bass, drums, all the vocals are just super crisp and clean. They are really tight. You don't get too many, sometimes when you get recording with a friend or a guy who's like, yeah, I got a studio, and you get these weird flubs in the music. You know what I'm saying, Seth?
Yeah. I mean, I thought the production is super solid.
It's unbelievable, and that's what I'm saying is Evan, he's doing it right. So
yeah, and metal especially is difficult to get right. It's the heavier the band, I think you have to be very methodical about all the frequencies and chopping mids and making sure things stay
well, not only that.
Not,
everything's got to be tight. You can't just go in there and just kind of throw something that's muddy down and expect it to sound like, some of the bands we've heard in our lives, Metallica, Megadeth, Slipknot, those kind of, listening to their guitar lines, they're crisp, they're clean. They're not this warbled mess of notes. They're there for a reason. And this song has that. It has this beautiful precision in the guitars and the bass and the drums, and everything really fits so well together. The vocals, I'll be honest, Alec and John, they kick this out of the friggin' universe, man. It is unreal. They have some fantastic screams. I mean, the grittiness, the heat, and all that on it is perfect. If they did anything differently, I think it wouldn't have hit as hard for me. But it hits super on the spot of what should be there for that song and that track.
Absolutely,
now,
man.
You and I, Seth, are kind of these weird song structure kind of geeks, right?
Yep.
We like to write stuff that, maybe it's the classic, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus kind of. These guys have something that I truly enjoy, where it's not really set structurally in a B, A, B, A, B, C kind of fashion. This is more of a circular thing, where the intro to the song is the outro, and the way it all comes around in this full circle of music is amazing. I love that kind of writing, and the song structure. It absolutely caught my attention the first time I heard the song.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I'm a super geek for song structure.
And I love how the vocals play off each other, in the choruses. They're more of a, John sings more of a sung chorus.
Absolutely, and that's what I think really gets you into the chorus, is the way that they have the lead vocals and the backing vocals are almost flowing around each other, and you're just there to experience this wind that these guys are making, and it's fantastic. It's absolutely unbelievable.
So it reminds me of like I'm hearing like an early Killswitch Engage influence, like from the Alive or Just Breathing era. That's some of my favorite material.
Same
I'm just
here.
hearing that not necessarily in the everything. It's got its own kind of modern edge to it, but it's got this really cool formula that makes it work super well.
I feel like what it's doing is it's throwing the main flavor on something that's been done before, and it's something that needs to continue to be done. It's just outside of what you'd expect when you hear metalcore, and it's perfect. It's great. So I actually did get the chance to reach out to John and talk to him a little bit about this track. And between our conversations and stuff, I did actually ask him for the lyrics to the song. And I'll be honest, like, these are some of the most beautifully written lyrics I've ever read in my life. But there's one section that I want to highlight, because not only does this need to be said in this day and age, but it also kind of aligns with what you and I, Seth, are doing with Trawl, where it's trying to push a positivity, on the world. Like, listen, stuff sucks, we know, but and just skipping all that, I'll get right to the lines. John Wagner sent them to me, and I appreciate him because I was able to sing along and like stay with it. But the lines are, in a world that seems so dark sometimes, we try to be a light, we try to be alive. Now, in this day and age, that needs to be said, and it needs to be felt. And I spoke with John, and I was saying, like, I thought these lyrics were absolutely beautiful. They were almost mind blowing how good they were, and I think it actually does need to be said that in this world that seems so dark, try to be a light, try to be alive, and especially right now, this song I think should be everyone's anthem right now for that kind of, we're gonna fight, we're gonna push through the darkness, and we're going to be a light. We're going to be alive. We're going to have fun. We're going to see each other again. And this song really, that one part, they sing it twice, and it's kind of that old school hardcore thing where it's not really sang, it's not really screamed. It's kind of like announced, and it fits so perfectly in the song. And when you hear those words, in a world that seems so dark sometimes, we try to be a light, we try to be alive. You just feel that John is saying, listen, we're in this together. We're brothers and sisters. Let's work together. And I've listened the hell out of this song, man. And it's still, that line gets me every time. It absolutely does.
That's a sick line. I love that, sort of positive message. That's, what we hope for with Trawl is to, like, we're going to be heavy and have cool songs with attitude, but at the end of the day, like, the moral of the story is kind of painted positively. Like, we love our lives, like, we love our families, we do all we can to make life awesome and make it fun, and
despite it being
encourage that
garbage sometimes, we fight to make this the right life for us and to be positive. It's so that line, it just blows my mind, and I thank John for sending those lyrics to me from the bottom of my heart. Like, meant the world to read another vocalist's lyrics and to follow along in the song. It absolutely, it just blew my mind how well they were written, how well the whole song in general was written. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you get a chance, ladies and gentlemen, on I believe pretty much everything. I don't think they have a Twitter, but I could be wrong. But if you look up Alions Band, ALIONSBAND, you'll find them. John is the handsome son of a bitch with the bald head and glasses. Jesse is a phenomenal guy. I've seen him at shows before he was even doing Alions. Great dude. Alec, I've gotten to know through the scene. Just an absolute killer dude. And Josh, I have had the privilege of being on stage with him too. Super great guy, super nice guy, friggin' hell of a bass player and singer. Not a lot of people know he is a friggin' awesome singer and screamer. So
That's cool, man. Well, I have not yet run into those guys out there. However, I have been working with John quite a bit. Such a good dude. We've actually been working together on flyers and a bunch of stuff, helping to design. And I was actually lucky enough to get to design the interior artwork for this album.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say, it says Inside Panels and CD Artwork by Seth McClellan. I'm actually holding the CD case right now. The CD is not in it. It is in my car right now because I've been blasting it, going to and fro, letting the world know who I'm listening to. But I have the case here. I actually was able to attend their CD release party. So
nice. Yeah, those guys put in a ton of work, to put out a full length, album these days, and to really, push it as a piece of work and not just a single, but as an entire body of work is tough to do.
It's a 7-track. Yeah, it's a 7-track EP, man. It's 7 songs, and they absolutely have killed it. Like they did the deed and made it work. I mean, I really wholeheartedly believe that. So
it was a pleasure to get to kind of be a little bit of a part of it with, helping with, those interior panels and just, kind of helping along the way with, flyers and all the things, all of the stuff that John needed to help promote the album. So
yeah. Well, not only that, John being the singer of Alions, he also is the proprietor behind Stage 5. And if anyone has seen a lot of shows in the state leading up to the shutdown that we've had currently, a lot of stuff was Stage 5. He's running and gunning, doing Stage 5. He's doing Alions. I know he's working and living with his beautiful fiancee, Megan. The guy is just unbelievable, and he works so hard. I mean, if you get a chance to see Alions play live, you won't be disappointed. You absolutely won't. And if you get a chance to see a Stage 5 show, they always put on great shows that are very well thought out shows. Like, it's not like, let's just put these 5 bands together and call it good. No, John takes his time to set things up properly so that the show feels like it should be, almost like a tour package where he gets, these 3 or 4 bands together, and all of a sudden, like, the whole night people are just talking about everybody. It wasn't like they saw their one band that they came to see and then left. Like, people stay for the whole night because it's just this almost festival feel where you got to stay. You don't know what's going to happen. And John does a fantastic job.
I love that. He does put together killer shows. He's been bringing up, regional touring bands from out of state that fit well with local bands. And I feel like, both the locals and the regional bands win because they get to share each other's fans and make new fans. I mean,
he is the guy who's there for every band. He shows support. He shows love. And, great guy. All of Alions are great guys. Absolutely phenomenal dudes. So if you do get a chance, ladies and gentlemen, find them on Facebook, find them on Instagram, find them on YouTube. And if you can, pick up Time Will Tell by Alions. 7 songs. That's one for every day of the week. And if you got to listen to 1 song a day, I honestly say start out with Chasing After Nothing. You will not be disappointed.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I love Alions. Johnny Wags is one of my favorite people in the world, and I want nothing but success for these guys.
Hey, what's up? This is John from Alions. You're listening to Seth and Seán on TrawlCast.
All right, so now that we've finished our track reviews and Dirty by Twin Grizzly, Chasing After Nothing by Alions, we both highly recommend both songs. Now let's do a rig rundown, Seth. Like what gear we use when we're on stage. Some people have asked us about that. It's kind of it's fun because we get to talk about it, but we're leaving out Gary right now and our guitarist, who are still unnamed at this point.
Still unnamed.
We gotta have some thematic music there. No.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So, like a rig rundown for people who don't know, it's essentially the gear we use when we play shows or we practice. Now, for any of you who know me, I am a singer, so usually we don't get to have fun toys. But for me, I actually get fun toys because I was a dumbass and bought them.
Hell yeah.
So for me, on stage, I have some cords that I use. I have a Mogami XLR cable that I usually go from my microphone down to my vocal processor. And the vocal processor I use is the Boss VE20. I love it. It's a really cool tool that allows me to do some fun effects on stuff. I can do some echoes and some delays and some flanges and other things like that. It also allows me to like almost overdub stuff. So if I ever wanted to, I could set something up to kind of do multiple vocal tracks while being live. So from my Boss VE20 through my Mogami cable, I use a custom Shure 55 microphone. Now I say custom, and that's because Justin Patry of Division North fame actually was able to put some blue LEDs in it, and he actually refelted the inside for me as well. But it's if anyone doesn't know what a Shure 55 is, it's the Elvis microphone. It's the microphone you see when you see old-timey Johnny Cash videos. It's the big silver brick. And I love it. I upgraded the cartridge many, many years ago, and it's still holding strong, so that's a good thing. But
it has a cool sound. I like it. It's a little bit different than your regular like SM58 or
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's and that was a microphone that I'd been dreaming about for I don't know, close to 20 years plus. I saved up for a long time. I want to say it was 3.5, 4 years, dollars and pennies and nickels and dimes and all that stuff to buy a brand new microphone. And I finally got it a couple years ago. Or not a couple years ago. It was probably about, at this point, I'd say 7, 8 years ago, maybe even 6. But saved up, bought it, and love it. Absolutely love it. It does exactly what I want it to do. And that's it for a vocalist's rundown on the rig. It's pretty simple. I use whatever PA system they have there. And yeah. So Seth, tell us about your rig, because you've got more toys.
Yeah, so I use Fender Jazz basses. I've got 2. Currently, I have 2 Fender Jazz basses. I've got a 2003 American Standard, and I have a 2017 American Professional. Both of them are passive pickups. I really like the passive pickup sound on jazz basses. For strings, I use the Ernie Ball Power Slinkies, which is the 4-string purple pack. I'm a 4-string guy. I've tried 5-string basses over the years, but it never really stuck with me. I've just kind of stuck with, the traditional 4-string bass, which I'm, a lot of my bass heroes, Les Claypool, Geddy Lee, people like that use. So I've always been like, well, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And as far as an amp, I've got this amp called a Mark Bass Little Mark Tube 800. It's probably about a 7-pound head, and it's 800 watts, which is, for the weight of it for a bass head. Most bass heads traditionally that wattage would be about 50 pounds or more. So it's a pretty cool head that's got a tube preamp built into it, and it's also got a solid state preamp built into it. So you can mix these two preamps, which is kind of a neat feature. And probably okay, I'll talk about the cabinet. So I've got an Ampeg 410 classic bass cab. I like 10-inch speakers. I really like the 410 setup because I'm a guy that likes that kind of mid-rangey, punchy sound. It's not necessarily that like sub, super low bass that's like, like megalithic and kind of rounded. It's more of that punchy, attacky. It's got some low end, but it's still, punches through the mix, and heavy rock and metal. That's kind of my thing. There are so many different theories as to, bass sound and for different styles of music. And I like a lot of them, but for me, this is what works. And so on my pedal board, I think the most important piece of gear I own, and my favorite piece of gear, is the Tech21 Sansamp. It's what they call like a bass driver DI box. So you could use it as a stage amp if you wanted to and go direct through it. You could record directly through it as a direct box. But I use it as a stomp box that just basically adds a bunch of tone shaping capabilities to the bass. And for whatever reason, the Fender Jazz Bass and the Sansamp are just a killer combo when it comes to complementing the tone from the pickups, because passive pickups aren't very hot by nature. They're not like the active Bartolini pickups that you put batteries in, and they're like super hot pickups that wouldn't really need as much preamping. But I feel like passive pickups, you can get away with a lot more. You can heat them up with preamps, and I love the Sansamp sound. I feel like it really wouldn't matter as much what head I have. Like I could probably, get by with just about any head as long as it was clean power, and then get my tone with the Sansamp. That's kind of my deal. So, so that's like one of my favorite pieces of gear I own. I actually have the 3-channel version, which is cool because you can bank 3 different tones on it. So you can, switch back and forth between them. If you have a song that doesn't require as much of an aggressive thing, you can have one that's a little bit backed off. Or I have, one channel you could use for like your settings for recording rather than live, because, you always have different settings when you're recording rather than live.
Yeah.
Next on my pedal board, I've got the Dark Glass B7K Micro Tubes preamp, which is a lot like the Sansamp in that it's a DI box. It's a tone shaping box. You could use it as an amp, but it's got a little bit more of a modern metal tone to it. I've actually been using it in the studio on the last 2 Trawl singles, and it's got this really almost undescribable characteristic to it, where it just adds this kind of funky, really prominent tone and attack that I can't really describe super well, but it's got a clean channel and a distortion channel, so you can make it get really gritty, which I love. And I'm still getting used to that. I haven't used it much live yet.
I mean, that's the same pedal, if I remember correctly. You got it, and at practice, you brought your own amp and cabinet, and while you were playing it, it was actually lighting your cabinet up because it was, like, super
hot.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was funny because we were all sitting there playing, and I look over, I'm like, Seth, why is your amp glowing, or your cab glowing? Like, that doesn't make sense. You don't have lights in there.
Yeah, and that's a little dangerous. These things are, this pedal is like super high gain. So if I use that pedal, I have to change my amp's gain settings, like lower it way down, because if not,
It's a drastic change from where you're
hot.
normally at. Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure that out because I feel like I've got two worlds going on, and I love the Sansamp, and I don't really want to give that up because, like I said, it's a super important pedal to me and to my tone. However, the Dark Glass has this cool new thing, and after I fell in love with it at the studio because Kevin showed it to me, and I'm like, oh man, this thing is dope.
Kevin not only showed it to you, he was like, no, you're gonna use this one, like you're gonna love it. And then you started playing it, and you were like, I love this pedal.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I seem to acquire gear. Is like I'll go into the studio. That's how I honestly acquired the Sansamp. I went in and made a record, 10 years ago, and I just, I fell in love with the tone we were getting, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go buy that. And then even the tuner I have, actually, I haven't talked about that. I have a rack tuner. It's the Korg DTR 1000, which they don't make anymore. It's actually the same tuner that John Wyman uses in the studio. That I think he still got one. He showed it to me. He's like, this thing it's like finicky, but by finicky with a tuner, it really means it's accurate because, you want a tuner to be picky.
Right.
And I tracked 3 albums using that tuner. So I was like, I want that same tuner in my rack. So I got that, and back at Big Daddy's Junkie Music back in the day.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I don't even think they make them anymore, so it'd probably be hard to replace. So I'm hoping that it lasts.
So baby that. Time. Yeah, baby that one. Take care of it.
And yeah, so the last thing I have as part of my rig is I've got this little mini bass wah pedal that Tom gave me. And it's sort of like, it's become just like whenever I want something a little different, or I want one of my bass lines to kind of stand out in the mix, you can almost kind of like, pitch shift it almost to sound a little bit like a guitar.
Right.
I can use it that way. I do use it as a wah a couple times in certain songs in Carchardon. And
what I like about it though is not a lot of bass players are really getting into the like effects game, I guess you would call it. And having a wah pedal on a bass, not a lot of people do that. So it's very distinct. It's very interesting to watch and listen to. Because the first time I saw it, I was like, huh? What? I thought that was only for guitar players. But hearing the way you use it, it's definitely almost essential in some of the stuff you pull off with it. I don't think you could have like an auto feature or something like that would just make it sound like that. Like, you've got this flavor with it, and an understanding that you and it are going to work together, and it just does exactly what you need it to do. It's fantastic.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's an interesting pedal, and I've tried like a bunch of effects over the years. I've tried, choruses and delays and flangers and, different, overdrives and distortions and things, but I can never land on something that isn't just like a toy that I'll actually use live. So I try to keep my live setup as like minimalistic as possible, because I don't like extra stuff in the way. I don't like extra stuff on the floor I'm not going to use, because anything you add is something else that could go wrong. And when you're playing live, you just want to, you want it to work every single time. You don't want any weird variables.
Yeah, it's almost like a plug and play feature. Like, you don't want to come in and have this overly complicated thing that, if one thing goes wrong and you can't find it, then you're kind of, out of luck using it. So just, keeping it as simple as possible is nice. I mean, being a vocalist, I can't really say much because I don't get to do a lot of that stuff. But I mean, for me, like, I understand that. Like, it makes things go faster. You can be on stage, set up, and ready to go within a couple minutes. Where some guitarists or drummers, they take a half hour to set up, and it's like, what are you doing? They're like, well, I gotta have my pedal board at the right angle. It's 3 degrees off, and it's like, wait, what? Like, you're not even really doing anything. You step on it, and then okay, all right, we'll just let us know when you're ready.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I think me and you are cut from the same cloth in that, like, when we play live, I get on the stage and off the stage as quickly as we can, and I'm like a considerate ninja. Like, I left everything the same way I found it. Like, I don't, I try to like help all the other bands get their stuff on and off stage. Like, there's no, everyone's there, everyone can help. Like, I'm not one of those guys that just like hides out back.
Right.
It's, time to go on and like.
Now, I don't want you to gloss over this. I think, and anyone out there listening, if you hear this and you agree, I think we need to come up with a Considerate Ninja T-shirt for TrawlCast, because that is a great, like, I mean, all right, if you want that, ladies and gentlemen, send a message to us, trawlband@gmail.com. Like, we'll work on something if you guys actually are interested in that, because that's a great line, Considerate Ninja. I'm gonna use that sometime. For that. Yeah, I'm sure we could.
Yeah, so because basically, you're like, anybody who's played locally knows, like, set times always run late. Like, if you're the last band or the second to last band, your set gets cut a little bit sometimes. So like,
well, not only that,
you are that guy that just tries to help everybody get your stuff on and off.
Right.
Play your set time. Don't be that band that plays 2 extra songs because. Fuck it,
you can.
You really, right, exactly, yeah.
Well, and then like you were saying, like, set lists can go longer. There's also, I've had venues where, like, okay, we're gonna start the show at 7:30. You get there, everyone's loaded in, first band's already on stage, and then the venue's like, you know what, we're gonna make it 8, and it's like, oh, okay, like, you just cut a half hour. Like, did we lose a band? They're like, no, it's still gonna be the same set times, but we're gonna start at 8 now, and it's like, what? So, helping people on and off stage is huge. I know there's a lot of people that like to talk about the singers union, and us singers don't have to load gear. I am the opposite of that. I do enjoy moving the gear and helping guys out. 9 times out of 10, I'll help guys get stuff off the stage, unless I'm going to be ill from being on stage, or but I love helping the guys because I like seeing what these guys are doing and using. So
absolutely, man, it's all part of it for me. Like, I love the camaraderie and the community of just like talking shop, talking gear with all the other musicians, and just like just being part of it, man. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's it for me as far as a rig rundown. It sounds like a lot, but it's actually kind of a simple rig. It's not much extra stuff. So
you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. The Considerate Ninja doesn't have a lot of stuff.
Nice.
I do want people, if you are interested, like, we'll work on some stickers or something like that if you are interested. So let us know in the comment section of Facebook or YouTube or wherever you can leave a comment for this, if you are interested in Considerate Ninja TrawlCast stickers or shirts or something. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Nice.
Now, we've talked about the tracks. We have done a rig rundown. This is the part of the show where we talk to you people and say, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or this new thing that I'm sure you've heard at some point during this episode, the kind of listener segues, I guess you could call them. You can do all that stuff by sending an email to us at trawlband@gmail.com. We will put it in the description of this episode and on any postings we put up. So if you do have a question, comment, concern, show suggestions, you want to do a listener segue, you can definitely do that. We have had a few come in, and they're fantastic. We greatly appreciate that.
Yes, thank you guys. We're hoping to eventually, have you guys help us to shape this show. Like, we want to know what you want to hear us talk about.
Absolutely.
So
it doesn't have to always be about us, ladies and gentlemen. It can be about you too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now, Seth, you did mention we had another question we had to answer from a listener.
Yes.
Now, who is the listener that asked the question, and what is the question?
Okay, so our former guitarist Tom Mishu, our good buddy, who apparently he's listening to the show, so that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't say anything bad about him yet, did we?
No,
No.
I don't think we've said anything bad about him.
Not yet. Not soon. No, just kidding. Love
So
you,
he
Tom.
we love you, Tom. So he had a deep thinking question for us. He said, what were you guys' biggest learning experiences from music? Were there any experiences you both had, good or bad, that shaped you or your thinking in a profound way? So,
Yeah, man, he's getting way too deep, man.
I know, man. This is a deep thinking question.
Oh man, so biggest learning experiences from music. I mean, realistically, you have to think back on your career, or maybe you weren't necessarily playing music at the time, and you were working for a band or something like that. Because I've had that experience where I've been a roadie before. I mean, for me, one of the biggest learning experiences I've ever had, and it was actually a good one that for some reason my young dumbass did not listen to back then. I actually got it from the singer of Signal the Noise, Koopa, and it literally was, just do it. Don't think about it. If you want to play music, do it. And that has a profound impact on me, because back then I was probably 21, 20 years old. I was a young puppy, and just getting to know him and all the guys in the band Boomslang at the time.
Yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah.
Like, I kept saying, oh, I'd love to do this. I'd love to do this. And literally Koopa just I think he got tired of hearing it. And he was like, then just do it. Like, if you want to play music, play music. And I mean, that was big for me, because between my self-doubt and just being nervous, which if you see me now, or if you've talked to me, I'm none of those things anymore. I've learned over the years. But, as a young, early 20s man, that was huge, because I was nervous. I didn't want to fail, but what's the worst thing that can come from a failure? Not much. I mean, if you're failing at making music, then you just have a learning experience. That's all that is. And that's the thing is, from that point on, I really focused on trying to put together bands, and I had some good ones. I had some bad ones. A lot of, actually almost all of them up until Devil's Night Out, kind of not necessarily fell apart, but just didn't really get the ball rolling. And I think that was one of the things that helped me focus was, if you want to play music, just do it. Like,
absolutely.
And that's, I think, honestly,
you're going to learn so much along the way. So like you said, even if you fail, it's going to be a positive thing in that.
Well, it's the learning experience. You need to learn from your mistakes. And if you don't, then you're going to make them again, and you're just going to be shooting yourself in the foot repeatedly, and it's not going to help you. And one of the things that has, really helped shape the way I proceed with music and stuff like that is shady promoters. Now, I've played shows for guys who are like, oh, you just got to, come to this and you'll be all set. And then showing up, they're like, well, we need every band to pay $100 because we got to pay the sound guy. And I'm like, how much is the sound guy making? You got 15 bands on this bill. That's $1,500. What the hell's going on? Like, that's one thing I will say is watch out for shady promoters. They're out there. And they are sharks. They're not the good kind of sharks that we like. They're those weird fucking goblin sharks or whatever those things are called. Like they show up and they're just looking to make money off you. Just be wary. That's one thing I will say. One of my learning experiences is be diligent in who you work with and do the homework. There are some people out there. Actually, John Wagner, fantastic promoter, fantastic guy. If you work with him, he pulls no punches. He's going to do it right, and he's going to do it straight. I will not name some of the shady ones because I don't want to give them the time of day. I have played some shows for them, and there's a couple that I will personally absolutely cross the street if I see them walking towards me on the same side. I do not want them anywhere near me. I don't want them near any of my bandmates. And that's because they're just a cancer. And it sounds nasty. It sounds terrible, but these guys do not care about anything except for themselves and their pockets. And if you find them, just remember who they are. Make a mental note up there in the old brain bucket and stay away from them. But do your diligence. Work with good promoters because good promoters will put on good shows. Good shows turn into more fans. If you're getting paid for your show, it's even better because good promoters can make a good show turn into a great show, and then you get paid at the end of it, and you're like, all right, now we can actually do that T-shirt run we've been talking about, guys, or, hey, we have enough money now to do a full-length CD. Like, this was a great show. So do your diligence and work with good promoters. That's mine.
Yep, I absolutely agree with that. I love that. It's so true. I think we've both dealt with that over the years. Pay to play shows and these sort of predatory promoters. So I think for me, this is something that I learned from my buddy Adam Nichols, who is the drummer from Loki. We played together for many years. Be humble.
Absolutely.
And let your work speak for itself. One of the things that I love about Adam is he's one of the best drummers I've ever heard, I've ever seen, I've ever been able to play music with. And he has zero ego. He doesn't, talk smack. He just basically, if ever a band that we ran into was one of those braggadocious bands that felt like
they got to toot their own horns, man. They got we like know some of those bands, man. We've played with them too.
He would just say, no, let's let our work speak for itself. We get on stage, slay as hard as we can with our instruments and say nothing else, let your work speak for itself. And if you've practiced and you've worked hard enough, that's going to speak volumes, and you don't need to be that guy that is going to,
I do got to say though, I love playing with those bands, those guys that are super braggadocious and like, I love playing with those guys because not only is it a sense of pride to cut them down, but it's my life's goal that night. It sounds vindictive, but I love it. When I get on stage and I saw a band that maybe played before us, or they're playing after us, and they're just being absolute dicks, I can look at you or any of the other guys in any of my bands, and I know, like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. And it always feels good when you come off stage and those guys are like, hey man, that was really cool. You're like, oh, thank you, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. They kind of get gobsmacked when you're like super humbled, when you're just like, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, because it's true. If you're humble, there's nothing there. Like, they can't grasp onto nasty.
Yeah. And so, and some of my favorite people and bands are humble. Like, a lot of my heroes are people that are not only good musicians, but they're good people. Like, it really changes things for me when, like, I love a band and I find out they're dicks.
Well,
like,
and
I can't really get behind that. Like, I can appreciate their music
that
to an
bitter
extent,
taste
but
in the back of your throat. Yeah, and that's that's something that they're out there too. Whatever, But meeting the people that are like super crazy talented, like huge musicians, worldwide known, and then they're like the nicest, most humble person. It's like, oh my God, like, you're even better than you were before. And I know people say don't meet your heroes, but there are some of your heroes out there that are going to be super genuine people and super nice and super humble about it. And that's super awesome to see,
Yeah, I agree. So I think some of the other things are like opinions that every band or musician kind of faces. Like, people will say, like, people have been saying my whole life, like, oh, being in a band is a waste of time because it doesn't make much money or it isn't going to get popular. Like,
Right.
honestly, I don't care about any of that. Like, it's not been a waste of time for me. I think it
Right.
really depends on what you want from it. If all you're in it for is to try to make something that's popular or to try to make money from it,
And you have to,
that's a struggle.
yeah. I mean,
That's
in
certainly
that
hard,
aspect,
and
you
if
have to,
try
if
to
you
make
want to
it,
make this a career and you just strictly want to make money from it, you have to grind almost 3,000% harder than, like, I don't know, maybe for instance, like you and I, Seth, like we're doing this, for the love of music. Like, personally for me, I, I just want to play music. Yeah.
yeah, same here. That's what I'm in it for. It enriches my life. It gives
Right.
me like something to do to stay out of trouble. It is something that has been
Mm-hmm.
a passion of mine for 20 plus years, and for me, it's connected me to a lot of people who are very important to me in my life. I have
Mm.
I met my wife through playing music. I have the job I have now because of the people I met through playing music. So you can say like, oh, that garage band didn't make any money. However, all of the things that are the cause and effect from
Right.
everything in your life has to do with the people around
Right.
you. And if you surround yourself with awesome people, your life is
Dramatically.
going to
Absolutely.
change for the better,
Yeah.
by default. So it all depends on how you look at it. But so that's my response to those people who are like, oh, well, this thing doesn't make any money, so it's a waste of
Yeah.
time. Like you're looking at it very short-sightedly. Like, this is a lifestyle and a way of being rather than like
Yeah.
something that you
No, I
do
agree with that. And
on
that's
the
the thing is,
weekend. For
if
me,
you're, like I was saying earlier, if you're in this to make money, you got to grind. You got to work hard. And if, with you and I, if we're doing this and all of a sudden, we get a break, a chance to go like big, all right, cool. Like, I'm not super worried about that at the moment. Like, if it was something that's extremely noticeable, like, okay, hey, we just got a phone call from this record company, they're interested, I'll listen to it, but I'm not gonna run out right now and be like, I need a record contract, because that, it doesn't affect me like that. Like, I want to make music. Yeah, I need to make music to make
it's not the goal.
me feel good, but also, like, I feel like the music that we're making, it has a purpose in this world, and whether it's to help people release aggression or to have somebody feel better because they're having a bad day, or just to have something on the background while you're doing laundry, like, that's fine too.
No, I agree, man. And so, I think the other opinion that every, band deals with, or that people kind of perceive, is that, getting opportunities for your band is like somehow magic or like a popularity contest. I've found over the
Yeah.
years that it's really just hard work. If you want to play that place in town that nobody gets to play, you can do it. There's 10 steps to get there, and you have to methodically, do your best to get to a level where it makes sense for those people
Right.
who have to make sure that show
On that,
wins,
yeah,
because
I think that's what a lot of
they
people
have a lot
forget,
of
is
money
that in
riding
these
on it.
bigger venues, like, I mean, just to name a few, like the State Theater, they're in the business of making money. Like, yeah, they want to have shows and events come in and out, but if they're not selling tickets, then they're not making money. So, not being able to do that, it's just going to shut them down. So you got to work hard,
Yeah,
and you got to
it's true.
almost
And
prove yourself. And then, they have to say, okay, this is a good opportunity for them and us. So, yeah.
right, they really look at everything like a business decision. So, if you're just blindly reaching out to places that are 3 levels above where realistically you can, bring a crowd that would support, then you're not doing it right. You have to work your way up step at a time, and you have to be able to back up what you say, because if I tell a club, we can bring 100 people and we bring
Right.
20 people. We're never going to play there again. You can shear a sheep many times, but you can only skin it once.
Well, unless you
have to
clone
be
the
able to
sheep
back
and then,
up
no,
what
never
you
mind.
say.
Never mind.
So,
Yeah.
So I mean, there's many ways to So, but it's one of those things. So, whatever you're doing, whatever project, you have to be realistic about where you're at, and it's not because you're not, good or whatever. Every band is in a different sort of cycle in their, popularity and sort of the maturity of, have you put out an album yet? Have you played in this area yet? Have you been building a fan base in that area?
There's a fine line. You gotta skate
Absolutely.
on it, man.
Yeah, and I see. Yeah, I see bands do that too. Is just you can't push the same thing in the same way 100 times. It's just going to be kind of the law of diminishing returns when you're going to share your album and then you're going to share the same post and share the same post. Get inventive, do it in a new way. Try a new angle. There's a lot of creative things you can do to recapture people's attention, because every time you share the same thing, you're kind of you're taking your shot, you're using that chance. And, one of the things I try to do is just change it up, do it differently.
And that's something, it's literally,
twice,
the consumer has a fickle mind. If they see the same thing over and over again, it just becomes, almost blank in their mind's eye. Like, you can see the same poster over and over and over again, like, a picture hanging in your house, and you don't think about it. But if somebody changes that picture, every couple days or once a week, you start to notice, like, when was there a clown in that birthday photo? Or, why is there a banana in grandma's hand when she's supposed to be holding, a cat? Like, I don't understand this. Like, you have to catch their eye again, and doing it, in just the right fashion will get things noticed, and that will help you in the long run.
Yeah. So things like that, I've learned a lot of these type of lessons over the years of like what to do, what not to do. And it's really just trial and error through, doing something too much and being like, okay, well, I'm going to change it up next time because that didn't work. And, a lot of those lessons you got to kind of learn yourself, but there are definitely some things that you can learn from other people. There are a ton of awesome, YouTube channels and podcasts out there about, music marketing and things like that too.
Yeah, and get stuck in the ruts, man.
Same pitfalls. So awesome question by Tom.
Yes, thank you, Tom, for asking that and making us think.
Yeah,
my head hurts now. I do want to thank again Twin Grizzly and Alions for giving us the opportunity to review some of their tracks and talk about them. And thank again, Tom, for the question. So yeah, subscribe if you like what you're hearing. If you're on a platform that allows you to rate and review, leave us a 5-star rating. We're always looking to get those and hear what you guys are thinking. I'm having a great time. We've had a lot of people message us privately and hit up our Facebook page and stuff like that, and give us lots of love. We do truly appreciate every single comment that you guys leave. It does mean the world to us because we are just having fun, but we're also trying to keep ourselves sane. It's kind of hard, but
yeah, we're trying to. Absolutely. This kind of came at a perfect time for us where we decided to do this because, we've had more time lately with, being quarantined. And so it's actually been a nice way to learn, more about you, Seán, and like talk and just have cool conversations.
Right. Well, and it's nice.
Talk with some other people.
We're creating something, I don't know very many bands that are doing this right now to create a conversational piece that can be like, hey, did you listen to this week's episode? Blah, blah, blah. Did you hear have you ever used that bass guitar before? No, people can talk, and that's what we're trying to do. It has been extremely fun to learn about each other a bit more. I know for me, this is super exciting because I absolutely love podcasts, and being able to do this is so much fun for me. But, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for tuning into TrawlCast. We, seriously, we do appreciate it. If you got some friends that are looking for something to do, to listen to kill time, I mean, we've got a few shows out. Have them give us a chance. I want to thank Seth and his whole brain for helping edit this show. He is doing a lot of the work on that side. I'm just the dumbass with a voice that talks a lot.
Dude, man, I love that stuff. I like geeking out on the editing.
So again,
side
ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to TrawlCast. We're going to be back next week. We don't know what the show is going to be about just yet. I'm sure we'll talk off the air, but stay tuned because I'm sure it'll be something exciting and fun.
Thank you, guys. I'm Seth.
I'm Seán.
Thanks for tuning in to TrawlCast.